The Appalachian Mountains were never quiet, not truly. Even on clear days when the wind barely grazed the treetops, something always murmured from the hollers, the ravines, the abandoned mills swallowed by kudzu and time. People said the mountains remembered everything, the tragedies, the lost travelers, the nameless spirits that still wandered looking for something they couldn't name. When I, Emily Carter, first moved to Rowan Ridge, I believed the talk was only folklore. A small mountain town with a population of barely 500, known for homemade honey, old bluegrass tunes, and decades-old ghost stories passed around campfires. I went there to finish my photography project on forgotten Appalachian culture. I didn't expect to live one of its horrors. My rental cabin sat high enough to see the fog roll like ghosts through the valley every morning. Locals called it grave mist because it collected in places where someone had died. I laughed it off, but the first night, while sorting my photos, I heard a long, dragging sound on the porch. Not footsteps. Not animals. Something heavier, like something being pulled. I opened the door. Nothing but the mist pooling at my feet and cicadas buzzing in the dark. Inside again, I found one of my printed photographs, one I hadn't taken. It showed the same porch I was standing on, but in the corner of the frame, a pale figure stared at me. A woman. Barefoot. Long dress. Eyes black as coal pits. I dropped it, heart racing. I knew I had unplugged my camera before bed. I knew that photo was impossible. The next day, asking the locals about the cabin only earned nervous glances and half-truths. An old man at the general store finally muttered, "That place remembers her. You should have never stayed alone." But when I asked who her was, he limped away before answering. I considered leaving, but I had driven 8 hours to get there, and stubbornness was stronger than fear. That evening I set my camera facing the porch, hoping to catch whatever had left the picture. Hours passed. Nothing. But when I played back the footage, my breath caught. There she was, standing still as a broken statue at the edge of the porch, the same pale woman with empty eyes. She didn't walk. She just appeared. One frame she wasn't there, and the next she was staring into the lens as if she could see me watching. But when I opened the door, the porch was empty again. That night sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the cabin felt like a message. Around 3 a.m., the dragging noise started again. This time closer. Slow. Relentless. Something scraped across the wooden floor directly beneath the window by my bed. I stared at the blinds, shaking with every pull. The moment I stepped close enough to peek, a whisper rose, sharp, breathless, cold. "Emily," the blinds fluttered. A handprint appeared on the glass from the outside. Long fingers. Too thin. Too pale. I froze until dawn broke. The following morning I drove into town desperate for answers, cornering a local historian named Lila, who lived above the old library. When she opened the door and saw me shaking, she didn't even ask what happened. "You saw her," she said, voice low. "The lost woman." She invited me inside and poured tea that smelled of pine and smoke. Then she told me the story. In the late 1800s, a woman named Annabeth Turner lived in the same cabin. Her husband worked in the coal mines and vanished after a cave-in. Annabeth went searching for him, wandering through hollers and climbing ravines, calling his name for days. When she returned, she was changed. Quiet. Hollow-eyed. People said she no longer slept. Then one winter night, she walked into the mountains barefoot and never came back. They found drag marks in the snow, but no body. For decades people claimed to see her searching, calling, dragging something behind her. "She shows herself to women the most," Lila added. "Like she thinks they can help her. Or join her." I wanted to leave. Right then. But a storm had rolled over the mountains fast, trapping me in Rowan Ridge with roads washed out and trees blocking the old highway. I had no choice but to return to the cabin. The grave mist was heavier than ever, spilling over the steps like living fog. I kept every light on, barricaded the door with furniture, and sat clutching my camera like a weapon. Around midnight the cabin grew impossibly cold. My breath fogged the air. Then came the dragging. Not outside. Inside. The sound snaked across the floorboards of the hallway. Then the whisper, breaking through the cabin like a voice inside my skull. "Emily, help me." I couldn't move. My legs shook so violently, I nearly fell when I stood. The dragging stopped outside my bedroom door. The doorknob began to turn, not fast, not violent, but slow and deliberate. Like she had all the time in the world. The door creaked open. She stood there. Annabeth Turner. The lost woman. Her hair hung in tangled strings, dripping with fog. Her dress was torn, stained with dirt and something darker. Her feet were raw, skin torn from endless walking. And behind her, gripped in her hand, she dragged a rope. At the end of it was something I couldn't see, swallowed by shadow. Her voice rattled like wind through dead leaves. "Help me find him." I stumbled back, but she stepped forward. The shadows followed her like dragging weight. I felt the cold sweep over me as she reached out her hand. My vision blurred, the walls shaking as the cabin groaned, the windows cracking as if the mountain itself pushed inward. I felt my consciousness slipping. But in a burst of instinct, I grabbed my camera and snapped a photo, the flash exploding in the room. For a second, the holler erupted with a scream, echoing through mountains, rattling trees, shattering the moment. Annabeth dissolved like smoke blown from a lantern, collapsing into a cloud of swirling mist that faded into the cracks of the cabin floor. The dragging stopped. The whisper vanished. I ran outside as the fog thinned, gasping for air as the storm finally broke. Morning light crept over the mountains, warm for the first time in days. When I looked down at the camera still clutched in my hand, the screen displayed the last photo taken. It wasn't of Annabeth. It was of me, sleeping, in my bed, taken from inside the room. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. Because I had been awake all night, I never slept. And I had never taken that photo. I left Rowan Ridge that morning before the roads fully cleared, not bothering to pack anything. I didn't show the photograph to anyone. But sometimes, in the quiet of my home miles away from the Appalachians, I still hear dragging across the floor at night. Sometimes I wake up to new photos on my camera, photos I never took. And sometimes in the corner of the frame, I see a shape in white. Still searching. Still wandering. Still lost. But now she knows my name. And I think she's getting closer.